Hello and welcome. Hi, I'm the Dr. Kaiser.
And he's very muffled. And I am Johnny B.
I am Clueless Mike.
And I'm Harry from Fog of War.
But together we are...
Massively out of sync.
Modelling forward edge.
Yeah, he's back. He's back. We got him.
Am I back? Am I there? Am I in the game?
You're back.
All right, let's have a quick look at the beautiful people in the comments. Rosie Raccoon, obviously. Josh Wood, good evening, mate. Still Rosie, still Josh, having a good chat. Axe and Axe, hello, all the members here tonight. Pleased to see you all. Yay. Nick from Team Clueless Games, your buddy there, Mike. He knows you're here.
He's back from work, I see.
Sub-commandant
hours nowadays.
Longest serving subscriber. Salute you, sir. Rosie is sewing, she says. We can talk more about that there. Quick. See who's here. Rich
Not
John.
Bunting.
Is here. Bunting.
No, Bunting season is over.
Bunting. We got Alan here bringing up the Royal Welsh Fusiliers. Yay. Right then. But that's only like 5-6 people. There's 15 people in the chat, guys. Say hello if you're here. Tell us where you're from.
Tony.
There's Tony. For those of you that Gamers with Coffee, Ashley, great channel, Gamers with Coffee. Catch their live stream and watch her beat on her husband for your entertainment. And Eric Cook. I love husband and wife shows where the wife beats on the husband. It's most entertaining. And Rick Turner. All right, so quick whiz round what we are doing tonight. I am going to be taking some risks tonight because I've been working on Johnny B's Flames of War British.
Yay,
and
thank you.
They are at the stage where I need to apply the wash coat before overbrushing. So I'm going to be daring a pot of Agrax whilst trying to do something else. It's going to go everywhere. Yeah, I know it's not going to work.
Do you have a pot stabilizer at all?
Well, interesting you should say that. I have a technique, which is don't take it out of the tin.
That works.
So there's a bit of movement in here, but it shouldn't go over.
I made my own out of a bit of wood and a large drill.
That's high tech, that is. We've not even... Look, John, what are you up to tonight, sir?
Slingers, mate. I'm still on the slingers. Nearly done, though. Just got eyeballs and bases and a few details. And then
balls and bases.
Nice.
What are you up to, Mr. Michael?
I'm sure it'll be a shock to nobody. I am painting some red Space Marines, as usual, Vanguard veterans today. Hundreds of arms, all magnetized, and I've got to paint all of them.
Epic.
What are you up to, Harry?
Right, well, I've got my Agrax Earthshade out as well.
Excellent.
I'm doing, can you see that there? Challenger in Desert Cam for the Brits.
In Desert Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. But I'm also doing...
Beholder.
It's a Spectator, so it's like a light Beholder.
Any Beholder.
And I'm doing some Beastmen.
Nice. Proper Beastmen. Very nice.
That's for my wife. She needs that. And the Beastmen are for something I'm doing.
So, yes.
Keep myself busy.
I should have printed off the picture. Harry was chatting. Harry has a thing because he's in Australia, for those of you that don't know. What time is it for you now, Harry? He's making a real commitment to be here.
It is 4:34 a.m.
Is it really?
Oh my God.
The cat is wondering what the hell I'm doing out of bed. The cat's sitting by the fire glaring at me going, go to bed, you idiot.
So what tends to happen is often on my way to work, Harry and I are chatting over Facebook because I think he's thinking about going to bed and I'm just on my way to work at 6 in the morning. And the other week he sent me a picture of Mrs. Harry playing Nanny Og in the local Amdram.
Oh, awesome.
Absolutely.
How did that go?
It went particularly well. So, yeah, they had a 2-week season and it was very well received. So, yeah, they did Weird Sisters. So she played one of the 3 witches in the story. Yeah. She had a great time.
If you don't know the Weird Sisters Terry Pratchett novel, it's one of the better ones, like all the early ones, I think. Very entertaining. Yeah, Nanny Og is a brilliant character in that.
Lots of green blusher and warts on her nose and a big witch's hat. And
all right, did she use makeup as well then?
Yeah, absolutely.
I never heard of them putting Pratchett on the stage.
Be nice. Don't think you're safe just because you're in the UK. Her reach is long.
Her reach is long. Right. So with a few things we're going to talk about tonight, because there's kind of a lot been going on. But I guess, John, maybe not everybody here knows Harry, because he's not on all the time. He's only a semi-regular.
Mate, I completely forgot my cue, but it's familiar with Harry. Normally I'll do the Arnold thing. Harry, if you would be so kind as to tell the lovely people that are watching who you are and what you do on your YouTube channel, sir.
Well, I've actually moved over to OnlyFans, and I'm now just doing burlesque dancing. But I used to have a YouTube channel called Fog of War, where I talk about Flames of War, tanks, and Team Yankee. So it's been a bit quiet on the old channel. I've still got a couple of things that the Kaiser has sent over that I haven't actually reviewed yet, because things like the play and organising a D&D festival and things are getting in the way. But I do promise that I'll be back and I'll make some more content. And there is some interesting stuff coming up to review for Team Yankee and Flames of War, so I'll make sure that I get back and cover all those for everybody. I do a lot of product reviews, but I'm looking at branching out. I've been talking to the Kaiser about other content I could do. So yeah, watch this space. We might find some more interesting stuff to do.
Nice. So if you haven't seen Harry's channel, Fog of War, we tend not to review individual tank kits anymore at all, because Harry just does it a great deal better. Really,
he's too pro, man. He's too pro.
He's got the knowledge. He writes a script and everything, mate. Me and John just sit in a room and talk crap for an hour.
I really enjoy your guys' unboxings, though. I mean, the whole idea of just ripping the plastic off on camera and whipping things out, going, "Oh, I don't know what that is." And
it looks like there's two guns here. I'm not sure what that other one is. Yeah.
Whereas I have to spend hours on Wikipedia going, "Oh, what's the difference between that and that one?" What's that?
Yeah. I did watch a video. Rob J is here. Hello. Rosie says, "Holy moly." Aspire Battletech behind Harry. Go on, Harry. Tell him. I
played Battletech a long time ago, like 30
the rest
years ago.
of us.
I love Battletech. So I'm really interested to see the re-releases. And I was in my local hobby store 2 weeks ago. And
there it was.
Because I love the clan. I've got plenty of painted up Timberwolves and things from my previous collection that I've still got somewhere, so I can dig those up.
That's quite pro, yeah.
Bringing back some memories, that is. Timberwolves, haven't heard that phrase in years.
So full Battletech or Alpha Strike? I mean, we were talking about, in the fullness of time, when we get to all the millions of other things, we're tempted to look at Alpha Strike, aren't we, John?
If I understand correctly, the difference is Alpha Strike is like the miniatures game where you measure distances rather than Battletech, which is you play on a hex-based board.
Is it still? Do you still have to keep track of everything in as much detail in Alpha Strike?
I think it's a quick play.
Yeah, the Alpha Strike cards are much simpler. I've had a look at those. So the mech cards you don't track as much stuff as you do. Like on the Battletech ones, you're colouring in every dot of armour that gets shot off and
damn
all
thing,
that kind of stuff.
Heat, everything, heat damage.
Yeah,
what's in the fridge, stuff like that.
You're right, Rosie. You're right. Or if it is, it's very well hidden. He was eating Vegemite on toast when we first met before the show, so that counts. Idic Beer is here. Necrons.
Hey, Necrons.
Good evening, Nick. Again, you probably all know Idic Beer. We've had him on the show a couple of weeks ago. Brilliant. He runs the Idic Beer Wargamers Unification Network, a Facebook group. It was absolutely instrumental in this channel getting off the ground. It really was. Fantastic guy. And he seems to watch an enormous amount of other people's stuff, leaves comments, helped with the algorithms in those early days. Such a beautiful human being, really is. All right. Johnny B breaking plastic. Which ones last more than 3 seconds in engagements? What's that in relation to, Thomas? Is that in relation to mechs?
I think doing the research of tanks.
Doing
probably that. Which ones last more than 3 seconds?
Yeah. Hello there, beautiful people. My brother Mythos, I'm sure they're from Frost and Fists. Rosie Raccoon. Eric Cook says, I'm new to Ancient Wargaming and need a simple, very basic set of rules to start with. Can you guys help me out, please?
Ooh.
Well, we've played 2 recently, which was Mortal Gods and SPQR. I would say, especially if you've played any Warhammer, you will find SPQR is very familiar. It's got a roll a d6 to hit, you've got a plus to hit, and you've got some modifiers to situations for weapons. It's not the same system, but it will be quite familiar. And we've been playing with like 25, 30 models.
Yeah, that's a good sell point. It's a very small model count, but with the options to advance and progress in model count as you go along. So yeah, maybe check that out.
Mortal Gods is a more involved game, but because it's got battle dice with like different results, it's dice with pictures on and so forth. There's a bit more variety in the way the mechanics can work, so the fights are perhaps a bit more interesting. I know that sounds mad because a dice with pictures on is just a dice with a table, right? but a table can have 1 hit, 2 hits, no hit, fumble, all on the same, without needing a table, I guess, and rolling multiple dice. It just feels more interesting again, I guess. BattleTech is great for the slow attrition feel of hulking mechs hitting giant robots hitting each other. That's the problem I had with BattleTech as a kid, is I wanted it to be about giant robots hitting each other, but what it actually was a piece of maths homework.
That's the problem.
I remember the same.
that's what it actually was. But I kept playing it in the belief that one day it will stop being maths homework and become giant robots hitting each other. It's like, right, I'm going to jump off the building onto him and said, okay, now we need to go back to the rule book and get the calculator out.
Yeah. Trajectory versus velocity. Gravity.
I think
jumping mechs with death from above, just go for it.
Full BattleTech and tabletop rules in a book called Total Warfare. Okay, what to think about. There's Nick grinning because I was being kind to him. Thomas Chase says Team Yankee. We're going to talk about Team Yankee. Harry's got some pictures to show about some Flames of War stuff. So as I just look through, hello there, Solvent Abuse, look through these, catch up with people. SPQR is, I think, do watch.
Have a look.
If you've got time, Eric, have a look at our videos. So if you buy that starter set, which you can buy from us, by the way, 15% off if you're in the UK. If you build the Gauls as heavy infantry with the big shields and the chainmail and the spears, the problem is nobody's got any killing power. For your first game, I would strongly advise keep your Gauls as naked as possible and have as many heroes as you can fit in, because the heroes are a lot more choppy and a lot more interesting. But in the starter set, unfortunately, it's quite easy to make 2 really resilient armies. And that just leads to a not fun game, is the thing.
Yeah, you want people to die.
Yeah, and neither of them have got much that gives them extra combat power. They've got things that give them extra defense. And the reason I'm saying do that with the Gauls and the Celts is because you can't do anything about the Romans. They come with all of that heavy equipment as default. But you can make the heroes very choppy and quite glass cannony, which is more fun. I think the skirmish game, you want it swingy, dicey, all that. I'm not 100% like waxing lyrical about SPQR, but like a lot of skirmish games, I think you need to think about what you're going to do and what kind of game that's going to give you. It's easy in a game that's quite small for you to create an uninteresting game. Simple Ancients, look at Dragon Rampant or Lion Rampant. Absolutely, they're both quite popular games as well.
I enjoy Dragon Rampant.
Math homework like squad leader. That was like doing core maths at A level. That wasn't just homework. Right. Anyway, big news. Maybe you can talk a bit about this, Mike. I don't know how much you've been able to keep up with the news. I definitely am very stoked about new Kill Team. Anybody that doesn't want to listen to Games Workshop news, probably only about 5 minutes on Kill Team.
Go and make a brew.
We've got Harry here. We are going to be talking about Battlefront type stuff this evening, because we've got a guest that's into that. But it would be mad not to talk about Kill Team, even for just a little bit, because it's a game. We've got some like 16 videos on the channel. We really enjoyed Kill Team. Big news. So tell them what we know, Mike.
So, first of all, they released a spanking trailer for it. If you haven't watched it, go and watch it. It's really good fun. Encapsulates what Kill Team should be about. It's Orcs versus Deathcore of Krieg. They've shown off 2 parts of new model ranges. So there's Deathcore of Krieg, which are a Imperial Guard regiment that wear cool gas masks and stuff. They used to be Forge World only, really hard to get hold of, and they've cancelled a load of that line in recent year. And there's plastic models for that. They all look really nice. There's loads of different model poses you can build with them. It looks like a whole set of veterans with loads of options is coming out for them. And then there's Orc Commandos on the other side. So as usual, Games Workshop, it's a big box set. So you get a faction, 2 factions, 10 models each side. You get a boatload of spanking new Orc terrain. Really nice to see some Xenos terrain. Looks like it's going to be multi-part, really kind of like build it however you fancy, which is great. And they've announced that it's a completely redesigned rule set. Most importantly for me, much as I love 40k, it's not based on the 40k rule set at all, which was the downfall of the first kill team.
It was welded to those 40k data sheets, and that caused real problems in implementing a skirmish game made out of a mass battle game.
Massive, especially when they tried to add in characters and elite units and stuff. And it just, I found it, in the end, it became more complicated than playing 40k for a little skirmish game. And who wants that?
It was 40k plus, not 40k light.
Yeah.
Whereas this, from what we've seen of it, and I'm pretty excited about this, and I know most people didn't play it, or if they didn't enjoy it, the stat cards, I think it's going to play out a lot like Warcry.
I think so too. There was a grainy image that I zoomed in on, and it did look a little bit like that. It's alternate activations, they've confirmed. Lots of cool stuff looking like it's coming out for it. The rule books look a little weird, and they haven't fully confirmed this as yet, but there's going to be the basic rule book that comes in the box set, which you can buy separately. And then there's going to be a rule book in the box set that has the stats for the factions that are there in the box set. And then there's going to be a separate book, because Games Workshop love producing 10 books where one would suffice. You're going to have all the stats for everything else you want to use. So which you buy is up to you, I suppose.
But there's the book that you're going to get in that starter set. There's also going to be a compendium which has got everybody else. So if you want to play the game, you've got to buy more than just that starter set.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I don't know whether everybody picked up on this, because I think this was more today's news. Is that this is Builders Limited Edition. They love putting that FOMO, the fear of missing out, and got to buy it now. But the implication is that this is the current set, and there will be other sets featuring other factions that mirror, as the 40k narrative develops for this particular edition, kill team settings will follow it. Yeah,
that's what I assume as well. This is set in the Octarius Rift. So it's got these particular factions. And I can kind of understand that. The markdown on their usual prices they do for a box set like this. I mean, the terrain alone in that box set, if you go on their normal pricing scale, is probably 70, 80 quid's worth of their terrain in there.
Oh, massively more than that. Of their terrain. Their terrain
and then really adding in the armies as well. And the box set's going to be, I reckon, their standard box set price now appears to be 125.
Yeah.
Maybe less than that, possibly.
You remember the Necromunda one that had loads of terrain? That was 200.
But that had a lot of terrain.
I think this one does.
This has got better terrain. The Necromunda one had all the Zone Mortalis, which are loads of terrain kits to make a very small piece of terrain.
I'm a bit nervous about the price. I'm hoping I'll be dare I say, I mean, it's Games Workshop, so it's all horrifically expensive. I'll be pleased if it's 125.
I will as well, because we'll pick it up for 100.
Yeah, absolutely. And John and I will unbox 2 of them for your viewing pleasure. I'll then give the orcs to somebody and keep the Krieg. So the historian in me always finds Deathcore Krieg interesting. Obviously, that's a very German-sounding name. They look a bit First World War. People tend to assume that these look like First World War Germans, but they don't. They look like First World War French.
Oh, really? Never knew that.
The French have that, that turned back frock coat that they've got. So the legs are free to move. Yeah. That is French. And those, if you get a moment, go on Google and look at a French military uniform from 1914. That is a sky blue overcoat and delicious red pantaloons, sir.
Oh, that's what you want to go to war in.
Yeah, that's what you need on the battlefield.
The French did discover that their uniform. Everybody else had adopted drab military colours. The Germans had gone for a grey. We'd gone for a brown. And the French were still wearing these Napoleonic type uniforms with bright red trousers. You're like,
if we're going to be cute, we're going to be fabulous.
Yeah, exactly.
Magnificent. 1916 reissued everybody with the sky blue uniform. It's like, no, we're getting this is a bad idea, man. It looks great when we're pretending we're saying we're ready for war. It's not so good at doing war. So yeah, I'm quite excited about that. Oh, Harry said while I was talking about the maths homework, he's in private chat. Did you click on the wrong button? Harpoon for the maths homework, mate. Now that is a fact. I forget you like a bit of harpoon. Death from Above. My main suit was a Phoenix back in the day. I don't remember that one. ASL is the best starter game for newbies. Yeah. Advanced squad leader.
Oh, that's mean.
Alternating activations. Yeah, I am Mystic Man. I am very excited about it. Mechanically,
that's my favourite thing. Apparently, is going to be that.
For those of you that have never looked at Warcry, mechanically, there is a lot to like about it, and I mean that. Not only is it built from the ground up as an independent system, freed from the stats, that's designed better for a skirmish, so multiple hits and multiple damage. Different models have a very different.
There's only one kind of like defense, isn't there? It's not like 15 layers of defense to go through.
No, when I attack you, I make multiple attacks against a target number, and you take multiple sets of a number of damage, and 6 is a crits. But it also had that procedurally generated objective thing. So you draw from 4 different decks. You draw a terrain card, and that tells you how to lay out a particular battle set. Your deployment, then your mission, and then you had a twist card, which would add a random element in, like it's raining in round 1, everyone's -1 to shoot, or something like that. And the replayability on that was really good.
Was that the one where the set of terrain had to be built in a very particular manner so you could use them for all the terrain cards? I wasn't a huge fan of that idea.
No, especially because the instruction booklet didn't tell you to build them that way. That was the problem with that. And I was one of the people that made a video on that and said, okay, you need to build it like this. Be interested to see about rep, but by the time it happens, it will be sold. Yes, I think so. But I think you're going to see repeat kits over the years.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with Flames. We've talked about the GW Orcs before. So I think we're going to put that to the side. So let's talk about Harry and Flames of War, because we're already 20 minutes into the show, right? So I need to find some pictures and see that.
Talking about homework, I did my homework. I sent you lots of stuff.
You sent me some pictures, so I need to go to here, like a pro. For some reason, when people send me pictures on Facebook and things, it comes out really teeny weeny.
Oh, okay.
They've been compressed while sending, not to get too technical.
So can I
never send pictures via WhatsApp because it compresses them when it sends them, and I think Facebook does the same.
Yeah, it must be that because they're not all the same size either, which is really troubling. All right, so Harry, what are we looking at here? Tell me the story.
So we're talking about early war. We played an early war tournament recently, and in that thing of you always train for the war you've just had, I bought some more early war stuff. So that's actually some Vickers Mark 6 light tanks. So they're little 5-ton monsters armed with a 50 cal 39.
Tank, right? It's got a machine gun as his main
That's what people thought a tank looked like. So, 5 inches of 12.7 mil of armor. Nice. 50 cal weapon. So you can see it's all resin and metal, and that's part of the problem with trying to play early war Flames of War at the moment. It's all been out of production for years.
Yeah.
So I had to do unspeakable things and be nice to people to get hold of a unit of these because I want to add them to my Australians for the desert.
Because they don't actually produce these models, let alone rules at the moment. Is that correct?
Yeah, they haven't refreshed the early war rules in quite some time. So when they went to version 4, Battlefront started in mid-war. So there's plenty of desert stuff, and they're all shifting from resin and metal to plastic. So all of this early war kit, they just won't shift enough for it to be worth doing in plastic. So yeah, as you can see, this was the festival of carving bits of poorly cast pewter and sticky resin into something resembling a tank.
Nice.
I think I've got a picture of the completed ones there too in the set.
All right, let's see if I can get us on to what we got here.
Because I did send them in order. I thought I'd numbered them,
but you sent them via Facebook, so I've just downloaded them in the order.
Oh, okay.
This is what's come out, I'm afraid.
Okay, no, that's fine. So that is my Australians for my Australian infantry. So at that point, they're all based and painted, and what I'm doing is painting the unit markings on so I can tell one a unit from the other. So you can see, you probably can't see, but there are dot markings, slashes and dot that indicate. Yeah. So the guys with the red bases at the front are the company HQ, and the other one is the different sections are marked in that particular platoon. So that's 3 sections plus the commander, the anti-tank rifle, and the 2-inch mortar. So that makes up an Australian rifle platoon.
Yeah. So I know you're more of a tournament player than necessarily a narrative player, because that's just what you can get, right? They're the games you can.
Yeah, I only ever get to play tournaments. I don't have anybody near me who likes to play. So
So you've not got a particular formation or period in time. I mean, I know the Australians are obviously. This is you said early war, so this is 1941 Tobruk Garrison, is it?
1940. So that's guys in the desert, 9th Australian Division. My early war force is actually my mid-war force with some early war crap nailed onto it.
Yeah.
It's not actually built as a a BEF force or anything like that. So there's enough overlap I can get away with that. But
yeah, absolutely. And things like that's infantry, you don't want to paint them twice, right? So this is the process you've gone through. So
this is also again the same thing of this is the fighting the new war. So I bought, to add to my Australians there, 3-inch mortars, and I also did some more Vickers guns. So now instead of having to steal my late war ones and just having them anachronistically there on European bases with late war uniforms, I can do proper desert guys, and that'll do me for early war or mid war. So these are the new plastic figures, which they were the first of the figures in the flexible plastic, and they're not great. They got better over time as Battlefront learned to work with that material, but they are a bit on the dodgy side. But they're much bigger than the metal guys. So if you put the metal guys and the plastic guys next to each other, these guys are much chunkier and beefier.
So I've got these for my Desert British Infantry. I thought they were all right. I think so. There's two there's 2 aspects to this. One is there's just some issues with the material, like you've got a bendy Bren gun or a FMLE here, and getting that straight is an almost impossible task. And on some level, I just accepted that.
I gave up.
Some of them are going to be bent. But on the whole, I found the sculpts good. It's difficult to work with because it's a soft plastic. So like when you get the rims across the mold line and down the center of the helmet, you need to cut it with a scalpel. You can't scrape at it, and that's really irritating. But the big one was, like, these ones are okay, but some of them, the quality control was just really poor. And I actually think that is Battlefront's real problem. I don't think the problem is necessarily always the materials that they work with or the sculpts. I think their quality control and their packing is shocking.
What they've done is they've gone for a customer service model. So they will pack anything and ship it, but their customer service is great. So if you buy something that's busted and you ring them and say, hey, this isn't up to snuff, they're very, very good at getting back to you with a replacement. But so I think they've gone for we'll ship it, and if somebody complains about it, we'll send them another one.
Exactly what Forge World used to do.
Yeah. So that's only my guess.
Before we move on to that next picture, somebody in the comments asked you, Harry, how long does it take you to knock out a sort of platoon that you had painted there? I don't know if you can answer that directly. I mean, obviously it's spread over several weeks, but how many
With
hours?
those guys, it's been spread over several years.
Several years.
I paint for tournaments. I'm a slack painter. I'm a terrible slack painter. So I actually need the impetus of, oh crap, these guys have to be on the table in 2 weeks. I'd best do something with them. And then, yeah, you spend dozens of nights painting knees on British guys.
I love that.
It's
Like
the
your knees to the enemy, sir.
It's like the Boy Scouts go to war. It really is.
Oh, it's fantastic. And he's really not going to help with the malaria either.
Yeah, that's right.
Roll your sleeves down, but pull your socks up, lad. You know.
Yeah.
What? All right.
So let's hang on. Let's go back to the cavalry because we haven't talked about those.
Oh yeah.
Oh no, we haven't.
Sorry.
Sorry about that.
Are these your cavalry?
No, these guys actually stomped my face. So being early war, there were really bizarre battles like cavalry versus infantry, motorbikes versus tankettes. So this is an Italian cavalry charge, but you can see in the background there's a bunch of little Italian tanks as well. So, you know, I'm having to deal with the oncoming tanks with anti-tank guns, but I also have to have enough infantry hanging around to keep the bloody horses off the anti-tank gunners. And early war's not my era, but it's actually a lot of fun to play, oddly enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was kind of fun.
This is a historical formation. The Italians did have semi-motorized formation, and before we had motor vehicles, the fastest thing on the battlefield was a horse, and people slowly moved up. I mean, we know, right? Tank formations usually came out of cavalry formations in the British Army.
Yeah.
And that white and red stripe that you sometimes see on the front markings of tanks, that's the old cavalry pennant. That's showing you its pedigree.
Yeah.
The thing where I have problems with a lot of historical war games, though, is these formations did not survive the first year of contact with the enemy because they're shite. And in war games, they're often not, because you put a point system in, you create a special rule because they're cavalry, so they don't work like everything else, and they end up massively overperforming. Historically, this is the kind of formations that, oh yeah, we've got a load of light tanks and cavalry. That sounds brilliant. The guys, they're trained, the horses lie down, they fire their rifles using the horse as cover. Saying, oh yeah, that works really well until you put a live bullet into the horse that man is leaning on, and then you realize that wasn't a good idea.
They didn't like my dug-in Vickers guns. No. So, you know, cavalry charge into my medium machine guns, and it did not go well.
No. You know, and so the enthusiast in militaria loves to see cavalry and things like that.
It was really
rather fantastic.
And it is magnificent, but it was useless, and so were light tanks, and so, you know, all of these early war formations. But if the other guy's army is equally poor, I don't know. But I'm never comfortable when I see things like this do well in the game. For me, it damages my immersion. It's like, this isn't the same war that I've read about. But anyway.
That is the problem with any point system, though, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, so these then, this is that cavalry pennant I was talking about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, those aren't my Matildas. My Matildas are daubed not anywhere near as well as that. We have a young guy called Christian who plays in our tournaments, and he won the best painted. And I think there you can see why. I mean, when you go down to putting pennants on your vehicles and painting the Contour scheme in the right colours and all of that sort of stuff, you deserve to win.
I mean, even getting them to the tournament without those pennants breaking is a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So this is a Matilda 1, right?
No, Matilda 2. The Matilda 1 is a teeny weeny little 1939 design that's armed with a machine gun. So it's one driver, one commander who has the little turret, and that's it. And basically, you know, 4 men can pick a corner each and lift it over heavy things, you know.
The only thing they share is the name, right? That's about it, because they look completely different.
Well,
apparently named for a cartoon duck.
Oh,
Matilda the duck of the time, apparently.
Well, they're built to the same design philosophy. So here I'm going to pick a bone with you now, Harry.
Yeah.
Because every time you do a video about a British tank, somewhere in the first 5 minutes of that video, you talk about the fact, like all British tanks, it's really underpowered. And this is a phrase you use time after time after time. And it sticks in my craw a little bit. Because there's a design philosophy around British tanks, so certainly British heavier tanks. And so what you and many others describe as underpowered is a deliberate decision that we're going to take armor over mobility.
For an infantry tank, yes.
Well, but even for a modern tank, it's still the philosophy.
No.
More important.
The British philosophy was we design infantry tanks, which are heavily armored and go slow to support infantry. And the cruiser tanks, which are cavalry tanks that go faster but have much lighter armor. So in that case, yes, they are. But what I mean by underpowered is not that they don't go fast, it's that the engines are being pushed. So in the Matilda 2, the engine is fine, but when you stick that engine in a hot desert, when it's been designed to run in a bus in London, and it has to push around several tons of armor.
Nerd fight.
Aren't they?
Yeah.
So it's just that they did tend to have some reliability issues based on the fact that they were using the maximum power of the engine to do it. So I don't care that it doesn't do a particular speed. I care that uphill bits of the engine start being left behind because they fall out of the back.
But again, I want to reiterate though that they are well aware of that. It is a deliberate decision. They've made a choice about how much armor, how much of the weight goes into armor, how much. There isn't a better engine to put in here right now. You know, it's like when faced with this decision, British tanks, infantry tanks in this period, but also the more modern tanks, the kind of post-war tanks, which are pretty much all heavy tanks anyway.
Yeah.
Commonly described as being underpowered. It's like, well, no, they just put the maximum amount of armor that this engine could possibly take, and that they were well aware of that.
I just don't think infantry tank means that it should need to be pushed by the infantry.
Well, the infantry tank philosophy didn't work. There's no doubt about that in terms of that.
And they did continue to design tanks for that particular philosophy for quite some time after everybody went, this probably isn't working.
So that, if you didn't know, that was
a deliberate decision made
by
the British to keep it going just because
it's crap. No. There was a deliberate decision that they would keep production, they would set production for the coming year, and they would stick with it. So because if you know anything about some of the problems around German tanks, the millions of different models, getting the early American, what's that pressurized heavy bomber that comes into service about 44? Is it B-29?
B-29, yeah.
B-29. It's had something like 1,000 revisions, and they keep making revisions while somebody else is trying to build one.
Yeah.
And so they made the decision, I think it's Alan Brooke, they make a decision very early in the war, like with the 2-pounder in the desert, said, we know that this is not really good enough, but we're tooled up to make these now, so we can start changing over now, but then we'll have nothing, and then we'll have better ones.
Yeah.
Or we can keep rolling with this, and next year we're going to do the 6-pounder.
And a lot of that was driven by the fact that the British Army lost a lot of their gear evacuating from France in 1940.
Yeah, it's exactly in response to that. Now you bring it up, that is exactly why they did that.
They had 139 Matilda 1s. Yeah. They took them all to France, and I think after they left 110 of those behind, and the Germans used them. So, almost the entire production of stuff was left behind.
Yeah.
So we better just make some more of those because we've got the tooling for it. And as you say, the same thing with the 2-pounder gun. The 40mm gun is actually a really nice little gun, and in early war works very well.
1939, it's a cracker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a crap gun versus the tanks that came along later before some of the nifty guns came along.
Yeah. And as a war gamer, you really feel that because in wargaming systems, pushing the envelope is always where the maximum benefit is.
Yeah.
I want the heaviest possible armor because many of your weapons will be totally ineffective. I want the biggest possible gun because I can destroy. I'm always going to be useful.
Yeah.
The reality of Battlefield is you get what you've got, right? You've got what you've got. And so not every Panzer III in Africa is an up armored Panzer IIIJ with the long 50 and the extra 20 mil of armor. In fact, very few of them are. Most of them are Italian tankettes that are riveted. That's the reality of it.
Hey, we were Australians. We were stealing the tanks off the Italians. Just painting a socking great kangaroo on the side of it.
As long as you got a motif though, right? That's what's important. Right, let's see what else we got. So, we already looked at that. Or maybe we haven't. Have we looked at this one?
That's all right. That's just the medium machine gun guys.
Machine gun teams.
Yeah, no, for early war, the Vickers medium machine guns are great.
My favourite World War II pose has got to be the Vickers machine gun. It's the sitting down, getting comfy. You know what I mean? I love that.
Yeah, although those guys just glue straight onto the gun. There's nothing to fix them on. So I've had to turn all my guys upside down and drill up their backside to pin them. So, yeah, they've all had a nasty surprise during the construction process.
Right.
Dear.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go back to the comments because I probably missed millions of them. Benny Plastics, I do two things. Cover it with super glue on the flexi locations. After painting it, thin PVA coating. Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to have a look at that. I see we've been joined by some other people, Gun Barrel and Battle Knights. If you want to see Dragon Rampant, Lion Rampant, check out Jason's channel, Battle Knights. He's done a lot of coverage for that. What have we got here? You'd also build bases that fully support models on one leg, as an example.
Hello, Rosie.
Very nice. Oh, hello, Rosie. Standing in. Rosie, you're muted, just so you know. John's muted you. I might be able to unmute you.
What's he doing?
Hello, how are you guys? You all right?
We're all
Very well, yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. How about you?
Yeah.
Yeah, all good here, if a bit chilly.
They finished talking about bloody stupid tanks yet? Or?
We finished talking about tanks?
Yeah, I think we have now.
Yeah. Have we finished talking about tanks? All right. Yeah. Yeah. So this is Rosie Raccoon, who many of you chat to before the show starts. Johnny B's long-suffering partner.
I'm gonna pass him back over. Yeah, I realised he'd left the room, so I was like, I'm gonna take this opportunity to go and say hello to everyone.
Why not?
And
Hey guys.
Bye.
Ultramarines.
Started my own stream, guys. I was just,
Yes. So it was kill those
wasn't
horses
needed
with the
here.
right target, not just the shoulder. Yeah. And a game system where a lot of game systems give you an extra hit point for being a cavalry model. It's -1 hit point, man. You injure a horse, it does not respond well.
Yeah.
Not at all.
I didn't sign up for this.
No. Bruce talks like good HE against infantry, only moderate performance against archery until the Firefly World War II, in my humble opinion. Yeah, but again, people forget, among other things, the Germans lost World War II really hard. Really hard. Lost World War II. The German...
Yeah, wasn't that the Russians, though?
Well, I think not, sir. I think not. Certainly not on their own, no. Were they going to win the war on their own?
Churchills tipped the difference.
Sorry?
You think all those Lend-Lease Churchills tipped the balance?
No, I think that Germany was fighting an existential war against starvation to make the difference.
Yeah.
I think... okay, theory time. Are you ready?
Here we go.
Are you ready? This is
Get your nerd fight graphic ready, Johnny.
This is Kaiser's theory. All right. Hitler was a soldier in World War One. Hitler believed that the Germans had lost World War One because the civilian government had surrendered and stabbed them in the back by a Jewish Bolshevik conspiracy to take over the world. Because, among other things, he was a proper fruitcake. But what is important to remember is, as fruitcakey as he was, these were the things that he believed, and these are the things that he'd experienced. And one of the things that he had genuinely experienced was Germany was starving to death in 1918. And that is fundamentally why the socialism takes root there.
Yeah.
They defeat the Russian Empire, they transfer their troops to the West, and they cannot defeat the Western armies before their own country collapses.
Yeah.
In the summer of 1940, Hitler has failed in the Battle of Britain. He is fighting an existential war on a timer. Germany is going to starve to death, and the people are going to revolt. Is it 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years? But I have no way of stopping this. And that, I think, is the thing that a lot of even modern historians fail to kind of keep at the fore. Why does he do these stupid things? And because he is on a timer to defeat.
He needed a quick win because German industry was only built for short-term stuff. So they
because he knows if
didn't have the production capacity to produce tens of thousands of vehicles. They could produce thousands of really complex, expensive vehicles. Yes. Whereas a lot of other countries ended up modernizing to be able to produce a lot of okay vehicles, and that made it.
But they're making those decisions on the basis that if it lasts this long, we're going to lose anyway.
Yeah.
Right? If I don't get oil from the Caucasus within the next 18 months, I'm not going to be able to have an air force that I can fly. If I don't do this, I'm not going to have that.
Yeah.
If I don't get Ukrainian food by the summer of 1942, there is a food crisis in 41 in Germany. People are starving to death.
Yep.
Literally.
But also, they didn't stop production of civilian goods. So in civilian stores, you could still buy, luxury items and clothes and that kind of stuff. They didn't switch over to a war economy. And you're entirely correct, I think, there that Hitler had to go for, this is not maybe the best idea, but I have to do it and it has to be quick. Yeah. So you have to take the risks for the big thing.
But they might not build much of a surface fleet once the war's begun, but they build about 1,500 U-boats.
Yeah.
There's a lot of effort goes into trying to fight Britain. So do I think the Soviet Union, certainly by 1944, we could pull out the war and the Soviets are still going to win. Absolutely. I don't dispute that for a moment. Was Hitler going to get to Moscow in 1942 with or without us? I'm not sure. But in this critical bit between after 1940, I think a lot of his decisions are totally dictated by, I am fighting an existential war against internal collapse.
Yeah.
And no one else is facing that war necessarily. Even if nobody invades me, I know this country collapses from starvation because I've witnessed it. I've lived it.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's me. It's not necessarily a popular theory, but I think it when you start looking at those and you see a lot of these decisions that seem really irrational, like it's all because I've got to do it now. Now is the time. If it doesn't work now, it's never going to work. We're going to lose anyway.
No,
right.
Never.
Anyway, that's me lecturing. It's just a bit of an idea that's been fermenting for me. Wasn't the Matilda II the Queen of the Desert? So the Matilda II becomes incredibly famous, I guess, and popular because it pretty much single-handedly crushes a 200,000-man Italian army.
Yeah.
Because what the Matilda II brings, despite being underpowered, as Harry will tell you, is the Italians have literally nothing that can penetrate it at any range.
Yep.
and that is like a war gamer's dream.
And the cavalry does not help them.
Cavalry doesn't help. No.
Matilda II's in early war worked fantastically against everything until I came up against Germans with dug-in 88s. And then they just went away. Yeah.
That would sting.
It's got a cruising speed of like 7 or 8 miles an hour or something, and very serious reliability issues. But what you have, the other thing that's great about that, so in the 1940s, the Italians push into Egypt, set up a camp, and then they organize, and you've got a 200,000-man Italian army. And just think about that. And the Western Desert Force is like 25 to 30,000, and it encircles and captures it. Let's just think about that for a moment. And it isn't because of just plucky Australians or British spunk. That's all part of it. But it's mostly because the Italians cannot at all deal with the bigger armored vehicles, especially the Matilda tank. And so the Matildas and Rolls-Royce armored cars of First World War pattern, not even pneumatic tires, just solid rubber tires being across the
solid
desert.
rubber for the win.
Oh, it's beautiful, mate. It's like, this is a 19...
So Big Mac Dansko was saying he thought Priscilla was queen of the desert.
True fact.
Well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, they cut them off. They get behind this retreating Italian army, and it surrenders. And it's just like, wow, that was really good, wasn't it? The lesson that isn't learned from that is that's pretty much exactly what's going to happen to the Hungarians and the Romanians at Stalingrad. Is the Soviets are going to turn up with tanks that their anti-tank equipment is completely incapable of dealing with, and they just can't do. You can't do anything about it. You just lose. Anyway, lecture over. Harry, tell us about Team Yankee. Oh gosh, there's only 10 minutes.
Oh dear.
Mate, yeah, you've been waffling. Just to let you know.
So, what did you want to know about Team Yankee?
Let's not talk about Team Yankee.
Nothing.
10 minutes to go. Let's talk about
10 minutes to go. What do we want to talk about?
I've actually got some paint on mine. We'll just cover any hobbying we've done. I got the washes on most of that. John, where did you get up to?
I've completed one pair of check pants and just starting on some stripes for this wonderful geezer in the green.
Very
That's
nice.
where
We'll have a look at them in more detail next week, I think.
Okay, yeah.
Mike?
I think
I
Michael's
have
finished the whole
got two different
company.
colours. Oh, sorry.
No, I was going to say you finished the whole company of Blood Angels, right?
I put two different colours of red highlight on various magnetised arms.
Oh, magnetic arms.
Right.
Always
and I'm reasonably
magnets.
happy with... Oh, where are we? There we go. So I've got my Romor Challenger there that's looking quite nice in its desert cam.
It's a beast.
All right.
It is a beast.
This is another one. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Offenses well through many advantages of it. So one of the criticisms, this is another one. Ernst Udet, who's one of the in charge of aircraft design in Germany, and he is an alcoholic drug abuser, but First World War ace, and he gets a lot of criticism for this obsession that the Luftwaffe has with the dive bomber. It's like even when they make the jet aircraft, they're like, yeah, well, okay, but go and make it a dive bomber. And then we got fought with designing a 4-engine bomb. Say, can it dive bomb? And you're like, why would you need to make everything a dive bomber? Saying, hang on a minute. Let's think about this for a moment. Why would they be obsessed with making everything a dive bomber? Well, have you ever done any reading or just listening to documentaries about the effectiveness of high-level bombers?
Oh,
In
yeah.
1940, if you were the guy that assessed aircraft, said, right, this level bombing stuff, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
What was it? Something stupid like there was some tiny percentage that landed within 5 miles of the intended target.
Level bombing
That's
doesn't
not
work.
precision bombing. That's like, I hit the right country. Yay, wave the flag, you know.
Even by 1944 Normandy, the Norden bomb site, which has got a human hair as its targeting reticule, by the way. That's precision gear.
Is that one of those human hairs that you get when you buy a bag of Space Marine?
Your aim would be all over the place if it was.
I can't hit anything.
Precision bombing, Norden bombs. You know, they bombed Panzerlehr as part of the Normandy breakout, right?
Well, no, didn't they just bomb the Americans on the back end of one of the...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's hundreds of strategic bombers fly over, B-17s fly over to bomb Panzerlehr. They've like boxed it in several miles across, several miles deep. And Bradley is like, I want the troops within 500 yards. And the bomber crews and the, Tenor and the Air Force are like, no, we're going to kill hundreds of them, mate. Don't be that close. I think in the end, they're within about 800 yards. The highest ranking American commander to die in World War II is killed by one of his own bombers in that raid. They lose 600 guys. Now, to be fair, this 1,000 bomb, I think it's 1,000 bomb. It's a massive bombing raid.
Yeah.
It does obliterate Panzerlehr. Panzerlehr as a division really ceases to function as a result of this bombing raid. But they kill hundreds of their own guys and they never do it again.
Yeah. But tactical air support can be different because I interviewed a guy who flew Kitty Hawks in New Guinea. And he said when they supported American troops, they used to get letters of complaint because they were saying they strafed them. And what it was they weren't shooting at the Americans. The Americans were getting peppered with hot brass. So they would fly their Kitty Hawk over and shoot the crap out of the Japanese, and then the Americans would complain because all the empties were falling on them.
Right. Yes. Yes. Dr. V, hello there. Well, welcome to membership. Only 10 minutes in, but it's been great so far. So the madness of saying, like, why are you making this jet aircraft a bomber or whatever, is saying, well, the thing is, what the Germans knew is that with a good pilot, one dive bomber, one blown up tank, one destroyed gun nest. We sometimes forget. So there's an interesting conversation going on among certain academic studies students in naval warfare at the moment. I've caught up on some lectures this past couple of weeks, talking about carrier warfare and really reevaluating the whole thing. Is that we've become fixated in the way the war was thought rather than why it was thought that way and whether that was the right way to fight it. What are fighters for? Fighters are to intercept bombers, right? But if I can get a fast enough bomber, what do I need fighters for? So if you're telling me you've got a jet-powered aircraft, I want to know if that thing can plant a bomb on the top of an IS-2.
Yeah.
When you think of it in those, yes, this would make a better interceptor than a bomber, but they only need interceptors to enable them to get their bombers through. Could it be, it's an interesting way of thinking. The war panned out the way it did, the way that it was fought. The thing I was saying about aircraft carriers, that was the Pacific War is regarded as being a war that was fought between big aircraft carrier fleets, right? There are 6 major engagements. But,
not here, it's not.
And
it's the infantry war here.
Well, indeed, Papua New Guinea and all that, yeah. So, and the battleship was rendered obsolete. Said, okay, but that's actually quite a revisionist view. America built like a dozen battleships during the war. We built several battleships. We built more
battleships were very useful in the island hopping campaign. They would bash the shit out of the defenses.
And the thing about the aircraft carriers, the point that was being made is there isn't a single instance of in the when the war is actually a real competition, rather than when the Japanese Navy Air Force has been crushed at the Marianas Turkey shoot. After that point, it's a different war. But up until that point, nobody at the end of, after the carriers have engaged in mutual annihilation, nobody continues to fight. So what has been achieved? I went into this battle with 4 carriers. You went in with 5. We had a battle. You lost 3. I lost 2. And then we both go home. Right.
Sounds like fun.
Okay. That sounds pretty indecisive to me. That sounds like the only thing, because the carrier, instead like the battleship is made obsolete by the aircraft carrier, saying, there's not that many battleships. Pearl Harbor, okay, but after that, they don't get sunk. Anything that can sink a carrier, anything that can sink a battleship could sink 3 carriers. You don't have a battleship sinking from taking a single torpedo hit or a single bomb hit. You definitely have carriers doing it. Okay, there are really extreme examples when that happens, but that's like total luck. And I don't think, actually, if you read the memoirs of the original fleet commanders, that anybody at the time thought the battleship was done.
But it's also the aircraft change engagement ranges. So when you were battleships, you were looking for smoke on the horizon and that sort of stuff. Whereas with aircraft, you could strike 300 miles away. You just didn't get the aeroplanes back. So, you would do a strike and then you'd get like half a dozen would make it back.
But you're not fighting over the water, are you? You're fighting over an objective. So what's stopping your battleships pressing on? And what stopped it is it actually worked out quite well for America, is the Japanese seem to have very much adopted a maritime aviation doctrine. So they have, once the fleet engagement with the aircraft was over, they would not continue to press.
They would then withdraw,
They would then withdraw. And that worked out really well from America, because for much of the Pacific War early on, it's only got 1 or 2 battleships. But...
Well, it had more, but they were underwater.
yeah, they were being refloated at Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah.
But it's a really interesting thing because the British used a completely different carrier doctrine. The Americans and the Japanese used to carry a strike doctrine, and it's all about first strike. I'm going to sink your carrier before your carrier sinks mine. The British didn't do that. The British had a floating combat air patrol. So we bring our carriers predominantly to keep your torpedo bombers off our battleships.
Yeah.
So there's one carrier in a surface fleet, generally in a British fleet, and maybe two. Very different doctrine. So it's just interesting because we kind of inherit the way the war was fought. But as war gamers, you're a bit more interested in how the war might have been fought. All of that.
One of the interesting things that we have is the last time I was in Singapore, we were talking about was the Repulse, HMS Repulse, that was sunk very early in the war by Japanese aircraft. And part of what they're talking about was the British commander was told, stay in range of British air cover from Singapore so that we can keep aircraft off you. And he's going, oh, aircraft piffle. And then suddenly all these Nell bombers turn up and bad things happen to him. And yeah, so it's that thing of at that stage, it was the kind of, you had to change your thinking to match the new tactics as well. So it wasn't just what equipment you had, it's what did you do with the equipment that you have got.
Yeah.
And how well do you understand how much of a threat that equipment is if the bad guys use it against you?
Yeah. Absolutely. So Adolf Galland is another interesting figure. So Adolf Galland is one of the Flieger Corps commanders. He's a Luftwaffe general.
Yeah.
And I don't think he responsible. He's not exclusively responsible for the Battle of Britain, but he is involved in it, obviously.
Yeah.
He was responsible for things like Operation Cerberus, the Channel Dash. He organized all of the Luftwaffe response to that. Channel Dash is one of those like, wow, how badly did we screw up there? But we're over time, so that's for another day. But what Adolf Galland did was he wasn't hanged at Nuremberg, and he lived for 40, 50 years afterwards and lived in post-war Germany, was widely interviewed on TV and spent a lot of time, like a lot of Nazi generals, saying, oh, yeah, we did a lot of stupid things in the war, man. I'm not sure that things that Adolf Galland said were necessarily what Adolf Galland believed. I think he had a post-war career being interviewed by people. We wanted to buy into Rommel, the noble general, the Knights of the Air, the German fighter pilots. It's like, I don't think you get to be a celebrated Nazi fighter pilot without being a proper Nazi. I just don't think it's that kind. They're political appointments. Those kind of appointments, you know. I'm not sure. So pretty much anything that came out of the mouth of the senior Nazi commanders that survived the war.
But also with NATO,
with
NATO, we had to have the lens to look back.
And
the Wehrmacht with clean hands. So we could have Bundeswehr in NATO because they're okay. It was all them naughty Nazis. So you know that
they're all over there, right?
You have to look back through a particular lens to history.
Yeah, I mean, Operation Paperclip is the one where they pinched the scientists, aren't they? I love all this stuff. Sorry, so we were going to talk about D&D tonight, among other things. We were going to talk about Team Yankee.
Yes, we were.
If you didn't see it, we did a tester live stream. It ended up being about 2 hours long. We played a game, an encounter, basically, a D&D. We all had a good laugh, and Harry prepared us another session.
Yes, the continuing Baconic adventures of the Medieval Sausage Squad.
The Medieval Sausage Squad, you see, because Bacon featured quite heavily in that.
Bacon did feature quite heavily, and I've leaned into that for the second session.
Okay,
So
I'm not sure that we didn't need a lot of help with the jokes, to be honest. They were the easy bit. But yeah, so we really leaned into we are a squad of psychotic murder hobos, right? That's what D&D fundamentally is. That's what we played. Except Alan, who was
their things.
He was actually an assassin, wasn't he? But he played pretty straight, and the rest of us.
He did play it pretty straight, but he was very, very good as the straight guy to your guys' chaos.
Yeah, absolutely.
And James's psychotic, whatever he was,
neurotic,
was fantastic.
He was my favourite.
Good with that.
I watched
Yeah,
it back
that was
in like the first 5 minutes. It was quite difficult to take, saying that is exactly what he's trying to create. He's created that quite well. I'm really uncomfortable with what he's doing here.
Yeah.
So
all the NPCs were pretty uncomfortable with what he was doing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why did we hire this guy?
we had a good laugh, and we did say, you know, we are interested in role playing one-offs. What I'm not proposing to do anytime soon is to run like extended campaigns. I don't think it's what our core audience wants, but one-offs of us just having a laugh at role playing, like everything. Certainly me, but I think many of us here are gamers in the round. We don't just play one game. I like board games. I like role playing games. You know, I'll play a game of Tiddlywinks with you if you've got spare 20 minutes at lunchtime for a laugh. You know, I'm a gamer in all of those ways.
Well, and seeing us being idiots for 2 hours is a lot of fun.
Yeah, really,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
you haven't watched it, make sure you go back and watch.
Bringing out the worst joke. Hey, someone had to say it. With German accents. Right, we are just about done here, I think. Next week.
No, it's only 5:30 a.m. We can keep going.
You're just waking up now. Your wife will be coming down in a nightie in a minute. We have got Ollie from Broadsword Wargaming on next week, which is one of the reasons that we can talk more about Kill Team when he's here. He's done a bit of Kill Team, and he is a Warhammer channel. If you've not seen him, Ollie's stuff, he has really high production values on his video. The guy, you know, I don't know whether he's like a designer or something, but there's a real cinematic quality to what he does. I think he just spends hours and hours, not just the editing, it's what's happened before then. The shots are all beautiful. Really nice looking games. And as Thomas Chase said, hit that like button. Absolutely. I'm going to try and remember that, because we don't get through all of the comments, I'm going to put a pinned comment for questions for next week in the chat. I'm going to try and remember to do that. I'll pin a comment. So if anything came up today that you'd like us to talk more about, or that we missed, or that you just feel you didn't get enough love, you know, I do try and keep up with the chat. I mean, but I missed, you mentioned Priscilla, but I missed that Big McDanskell was here, and he's a lovely man, and he's coming on the show again in a couple of months, depending on where he gets to with that long distance lorry. It's been lovely having you again, Harry. Really appreciate it.
It's lovely to be asked. I'll be looking forward to when you're doing this and it's not British summertime, though.
Well, then it'll be Australian summertime. Will that give you a 2-hour gap? Or do you
no, we don't do daylight savings here. It's we don't understand it. We can't do the maths. We haven't got enough fingers and toes.
Yeah.
12 hours, 10 fingers, can't do it.
Get ready for 1,000 sausages. All right. Yeah. Interestingly, from Subcommandante, one of the things we talked about the other day was playing a game of Tanks the Modern Age, which is an outdated system now, but it hasn't been replaced. And remember, you used to watch those. Karen, with the backhanded compliment then.
Yeah, man.
When Harry is on, right? No. God help the Commonwealth. Well, you know, the sun never sets on the British Empire, and the reason for that is because God doesn't trust the British in the dark.
In the dark, yeah.
That happy note. Hope you enjoyed the show, guys. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.